It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
We have Professor Alan Dershowitz. His book is War Against the Jews. Professor Dershowitz, it's astounding that there was a leak within the U.S. intelligence community about Israel intelligence strategies. What does that say? I mean, we use the word treasonous. I think it is.
Well, what it says, first of all, is that Israel is justified in not telling the United States what its secrets are and who it intends to attack and when it intends to attack. I mean, the reason that the devices worked, the cell phones worked and blowing them up, the United States wasn't told about it until it was about to happen. The same thing with Nasrallah. And I think as a result of this, you're going to see even worse communications between Israel and the United States, and that doesn't serve the interests of any country. Look, we know that there are people within the government who support Iran. They range from probably the woman that you mentioned, I don't really know her, but I've read about her, to Malley, who clearly supportive of Iran, to my old friend John Kerry, who I don't trust on this issue. And when you think about the double standard, after Pollard was arrested and found to be an Israeli spy, the State Department and others started to fire people who had been born in Israel. Just because they were born in Israel, because they spoke Hebrew, they went out of their way to make sure there was no double standard or dual loyalty. But now they seem to have lots of people in positions of great authority that at least can be suspected of dual loyalties and maybe even greater loyalties to America's enemies. Remember, this hurts America greatly as well, not only Israel, and it hurts relationships between the two countries. You think the FBI is going to find out who did it? Now, there is already some suspicion with names of people, but remember, the government never found out who leaked the Supreme Court decision in the case overruling Roe versus Wade. You don't solve crimes unless you want to solve them. And I worry that the FBI is going to have a hand tied behind its back when it comes to discovering who actually leaked the material, because whether you call it treason or anything else, it's a clear violation of law to leak classified information that you were given on a classified basis.
Absolutely. And sadly, it looks like there could be a number of people. I mean, if you look at the background of some of these people, it could be a number of potential leakers, Professor Alan Dershowitz. Judge Weinberg.
And Alan, Malley was rewarded for all his great efforts by a professorship, I think it was at Princeton.
Well, of course, that always happens. That happened all over the world. Look, after Kathy Boudin was convicted of murdering policemen in Rockland County, and she served her time, and I was glad she got out, and I actually consulted with her father on it. And Columbia makes her a professor. Unbelievable. Gives her a teaching job. Can you imagine if somebody had been convicted of being a Klansman and killing civil rights workers and then served their time? You think Columbia would have ever hired somebody like that? Yeah. So we see double standards all over the place. Columbia has now banned a pro-Israel professor from campus. University of Pennsylvania is going after a conservative professor, but not after people who call for genocide. And, of course, Kamala Harris, responding to somebody yelling that Israel is committing genocide, basically justifies it instead of saying what she should say. Look, he has the right to spew this nonsense, these blood libels, these terrible things. He has the right to say it under the First Amendment. But I certainly think he's dead wrong for saying it. That's what she should have said. Instead, she said, well, he's right about that. He has a point. And everybody in this administration has said the same thing. Waltz has said that. We know that Biden has said that. We know that Kamala Harris. None of them have been willing to condemn the substance of what these bigots have been saying about, genocide and ethnic cleansing and all of those things, all of which are false. And all the spokespeople in this administration have refused to condemn it because they don't want to lose the left-wing radical student protest to vote.
You know, it's amazing because I saw that moment, Professor Dershowitz, what you're talking about, where she said, oh, yeah, what the protesters talking about, it's real. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, it's real.
Right. I mean, where are the like pounding of Jewish leaders, saying this is unacceptable? I mean, it is shocking to see someone who's running for U.S. president, not stalwart supporting Israel and saying, oh, it's real. It scares me. To John's point, what's going to happen if these people are in full control of policy?
It scares me, too. And I think we've seen a failure of Jewish leadership since October 7th. We're seeing a repetition of what happened in the United States in the early 1930s. We're seeing it by Jewish leaders, by some rabbis, and others who are more interested in having an influence in getting Democrats elected than in standing up for Israel. They don't want to attack the administration now before the election. Maybe after the election is over, whichever way it goes, they'll do it. But they don't want to be perceived as having influenced the election against the person who may become the next president of the United States. So there's a lot of cowardice. There's a lot of calculation. It's all wrong. You have to stand up for principle. That's why I have said publicly, I find it very difficult to consider casting a vote for somebody who said it's real when a discussion about genocide in Gaza. It's not real. It's made up. It's fake. It's not even close to the truth. Israel has killed fewer Palestinians than any country in history faced with comparable threats and engaged in comparable wars. The numbers are much lower than are reported in the media. By the way, do you see what the Wall Street Journal reported yesterday, that they got some Sinwar messages, and Sinwar basically said, we want Israel to kill more Gazans. We want more Palestinians to die. That will hurt Israel. Let's encourage Israel to kill more Gazans. So it's Sinwar who wants Gazans to die.
They don't care about life.
Well,
they really are a death cult.
Love death.
They are a death cult.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
where do you think the
wanted,
Jewish? I was going to wonder where the Jewish vote's going to go this time, because I'm sitting here looking
the
as we're talking.
Hispanic vote was up significantly this morning.
Yeah, for Trump. Yeah, for Trump.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen with the Jewish vote as we're talking? I mean, if you're somebody who cares about Israel, how could you say I'm going to support what we're talking about?
And I can tell you, everybody in my family is going to vote for Harris, even though they're very strongly supportive of Israel. They, believe in the Democratic Party the way some people believe in religion. I am doubtful myself, but I stand alone among my friends and family. I think there are going to be a lot of Jews.
Rabbi Potashnik was talking to me. He thinks only 20% of the Jewish vote is going to go to Trump.
I think it'll be as many as 30%, but it won't be more than that, and it should be higher than that. But Jews are not single-issue voters any more than blacks are or gays are. I wish Jews would vote more in the interests of Israel. The great Rabbi Hillel said, "Emein ani li mili." If I'm not for myself,
Professor,
who will for me?
It's not only Israel. It's the problems in Ukraine, the problems in the Red Sea, the problems in the Suez, the problems in the Far East with China and Russia practicing with 400 ships.
Mm-hmm. That's why the numbers will go up from mid-20s probably to 30, but it's unlikely to go higher than that. There may be some secret votes. There may be some people. I know some people who've said, I'll never admit I voted for Trump because my family would never speak to me, but once I'm in that room, I will vote for Trump. So there'll be some of that. And there's probably a lot of that around the country, by the way, people who are embarrassed about saying they're going to vote for Trump, and that may help Trump win the election.
Last question.
You know what, Professor? You said it's not just a single issue, but this is a major issue.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
they
really need to focus on what's going on here and look at the gravity of this issue.
And the more orthodox a person is, the more connected they are to the traditions of the religion, the more likely they are to be for Trump. And the closer they are to reform, the less likely. So, it's the Jewish community is a very diverse community, but I hope they vote the interests of
the
America,
world.
The interests of the world, because
the interests of the world. Yeah, I agree.
Professor Dershowitz, we love you. Thank you so much, and
Likewise.
we
Thank
hope
you.
the world survives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.